Okay, we're back again. This is Jeff Thayer, author of StarFish, Evolution of People in the Workplace. What I want to talk to you today about is a short video on composting. In the book, Jax talks a lot about soils and plant health from the ground up rather than from the top down. And we've talked in other videos about how plants receive their nutrients, how they receive their water from the ground up, how the water percolates at night and moves upward and works with the root system, bringing minerals from the ground, deep in the ground, straight up into the root system. And one of the things that I find very effective is composting. One, you can use a variety of different things, which I'm going to talk about as a compost base, and I'm going to show you today how I do it. Essentially, it amplifies what Jax speaks about in the book. There's a lot out there on it. There are links below that I've collected, and I've utilized some or all of them in various ways, but the first thing is you need to understand, or I need to understand, and I've experimented this many different ways, that you need a mix of brown matter to green matter, brown being 3 and green matter being something like what I'm going to show you today, apple peelings or apples, fresh green grass clippings, garden clippings, and table waste or table scraps that are vegetables. Anything that's a vegetable is usually okay. I stay away from citrus. I stay away entirely from meat and oils because it tends to rot and smell and bring in a lot of different varmints. So I don't use meat, I don't use citrus. So I'm going to show you in a few minutes how I do it and what I use, but in addition to table scraps, in another video you can watch how I do fermentation. That plays a major role in StarFish. Jax does it with cabbage. But when you're done eating from the mason jar, there's usually about this much juice left over. And you'll recall that I ferment, Jax ferments, cabbage and other vegetables in a mason jar using halo archaea, which is found in pink Himalayan sea salt. And since I have that left over, I tend to use that along with urine and coffee grounds and a variety of other things that I have found the worms that help break your compost pile down, along with Jobe's compost starter. These worms, I use Uncle Jim's red wigglers. I don't have any today, but there's a link below where you can purchase them from a very reasonable price. I tend to put them in the spring. They may go away in the wintertime because we get pretty heavy snows and it's pretty cold and they go deep. But they tend to come back if you continue to feed your compost pile. And red wigglers, any kind of worm, but red wigglers particularly are some of the best composting worms on the planet. And I tend to buy some every year and add them to my pile, and they help break down the whatever I've put in there. So red wigglers are big. Air, using sticks and straw and brown matter to allow your compost pile to have some air underneath the top layer is very effective. The urine works synergistically with the archaea and you can read a link below as to how that happens, and it helps to nitrogen fix your compost pile so that when you use it in the spring as a mix, either entirely or supplemented with other organic matter, organic soil potting mix, again, it's very effective. There's a product that I purchase at Walmart, which you'll see in a bit, that is a potting mix which is organic, and I found it very effective. I use some perlite, again, to give it air and breathing space, and then of course rainwater and watering your compost pile every other day keeps it moist and allows it to build up heat and break down the table scraps and the grass clippings and the leaf clippings that I prune on a regular basis, tomato clippings, squash clippings, just anything that's green that I feel is not needed and needs to be pruned back goes into the compost pile. As I said, table scraps are great as long as they are the mix that I spoke about earlier. Okay, so that's pretty much it. What I'm going to do now is cut here and change the camera angle, and I'm going to take you to the compost pile, and I'll briefly show you how I do it. Okay, so we're back now. And I'm just going to show you a little bit about what I put into the compost. I have here the organic potting mix that I purchased at Walmart. I find this is very effective. A little bit of this. You can see squash clippings here, urine in a jug that's been collected. There's the Jobe's compost starter, which I use a handful of that. The perlite that I purchased at Walmart as well. And then over here to the right, or to the left, excuse me, our coffee grounds. And then if you can see it, I've got a jar, a mason jar of the juice left over that contains the halo archaea. It's going to be hard for me to hold the camera and do this all at once. One other thing that I have, and I'll walk you out here, you can look at it, is I've got a bunch of apples that I've collected in a wheelbarrow that fell from the tree and are bruised, or worms in some of them. Critters have chewed off some of it, and that goes into the compost pile as well. So what I'm going to do is break right now, and I'm going to build the compost pile, and we'll come back. So we're back now, and what I've done is put the green matter in there on top of brown. The brown was already there. And I've added the green matter on top. I've put some Jobe's compost starter on it. And then I've added the coffee grounds. And what I add after that is the urine. And what I add after that is the urine. And then the perlite. And then I add the potting mix on top. And then I take the grass clippings and I put them on top, and then I add the fermented leftover water with a halo archaea on top of the grass clippings, and then I water the pile. So I'm going to break away now and do that, and you'll see the compost pile, what it looks like when I'm finished. Okay, so we're back now. I've added the items that I mentioned. The urine first, and then the fermented juice. That's already in there on top of the apples and the green matter. I put the potting mix on top and some perlite on top, and now I'm just ready to cover it up with nothing other than straw or grass clippings that have been dried out. Basically, you just throw it on top. It helps to keep the pile from drying out. And that's how it's done. Once you're finished, Covered up pretty much everything. The only thing that's remaining is water. And all I do is hit it with water like this. Just like that. And that's pretty much how I compost. All the time. The water helps to activate everything, cut down the smell, and it brings it down into the soil where the worms are. And that's it. So I'll come back and close it up. And that's the video on how to do how I do composting and how Jax does composting. Pretty simple. Okay, we're back after being at the compost pile. I hope you learned a little something here. There's a lot of links below. Again, this is how I do it. It's not magic. I've been doing this for a number of years, and I've probably done it a lot of wrong ways. And this is the way, or the path that I found is most effective. So I'm going to sign off now, and have a great day.